Hi ladies, good evening. We'll just wait for a few more people to join. Hi Kelly. Hi Iz. Sorry guys, we'll just wait for a few more people to join, then we'll get going. Okay, so I'll get started, and then obviously people will join as I'm speaking anyway. So good evening and welcome to another talk with peer to peer. We've had a lovely little break in between, so we're ready and raring to go for another live. So today we're going to be speaking about young people being ready for sex. So the actual topic is called Are You Ready? And it's just basically going to be discussing what age and kind of time period do we feel like young people are ready for sex, and also what contributing factors will basically contribute to a young person being ready for sex, and also looking at the signs that you're not ready for sex as well. We're also going to have a lovely guest join in. I'll introduce him in a sec, but first and foremost, I'm just going to go through the statistics, which I do every week. So 2 in 5 women and 1 in 4 men say that their first experience of sex had not happened at the right time. The average age in the UK of people losing their virginity is 18 years old. Hi, guys. And nearly half of young women say that they regret losing their virginity too early. Now, these are all just statistics in the UK. So what our lovely guest today is Ashley. He's going to be joining us today. He actually works for an organisation which I'll get him to discuss with you guys in a little bit more detail. So Ash, if you want to join, and we'll have you come on. Just waiting for him to join, guys. Hello, Mr. Fanshu.
Zen, what's happening, girl?
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good. Welcome to Peer to Peer Live.
No, right. Thanks for having me. So what's popping?
Your reception is quite bad, Ash.
Is it bad? Hold on, I might have to change my location. Hold on.
Yeah. Hi, everyone who has joined. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just waiting for Ashley to sort out his connection because we want to make sure that it's good enough. But yeah, he's going to be joining us today. For anyone who's just joined, we're going to be discussing about young people being ready and prepared for sex. I think Ashley's just having a bit of a technical problem at the minute. He's just requested, bear with me.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff.
So, Ashley, if you want to just kind of introduce yourself and go from there.
Right. Hi, everyone that's tuned in. My name's Ashley. I'm currently um, one of the guest speakers today, so hope you enjoy the show. I'm currently a founding member of Dissecting Minds, which is just basically a platform for people to write in questions for us to answer. We talk about real life topics in the real world, none of this social media hype stuff. So it's good. I'm also the creator of a organic, 100% natural organic cream called Pattaya Skincare. So check that out as well. But yeah, let's get into it.
Amazing. So just kind of to get the ball rolling about what the conversation is going to be, how do you, or let's, I don't know if you want to get a bit too personal, but let's talk about your kind of first sexual experience, or what your kind of thought process was building up to it, or what your mindset was at that age when you did lose your virginity, or coming up to that point. What was going through your head? Just speak about that experience.
So I lost my virginity at quite a young age. I don't really remember much of it, to be fair.
Oh God.
I don't really remember much of it, but what I will say is there's different type of people in the world, right? I was more so the curious type.
Hmm.
Um, so it wasn't a case where I was feeling pressured by my peers or anything like that. Like it wasn't like a goal that I had to achieve. It was
Hmm.
more so I want to know what's popping with that. I want to know what's going
Yeah.
on. So it was alongside those lines. But of course you could imagine the first time and that it was a big flop in that. But you know,
Was it
we move,
really?
we move.
I mean, as to be expected, you've never done it before, so you have no idea what you're doing.
Exactly, exactly. But
So,
yeah,
how old was you, if you don't mind me asking?
honestly, I can't remember. I would have to.
Was it that
Uh,
long ago?
no, it was. I would probably say about. I don't even want to say like that. It could have been about 13, 14-ish,
Really?
14. Them sort of around them sort of ages there.
Okay, and did you feel like you was actually ready to lose your virginity, or was it something that you pushed yourself to do because you felt like it was the right thing to do, or
Again, it was neither. I'm quite a laid back person, right? So it was neither like I didn't feel any pressure as such. It
mm,
was like I said, it was curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. So I
yeah,
really wanted to know what it was about. I didn't put myself under any pressure to get it out the way.
yeah,
It just so happened,
hmm,
and I don't regret it. Not that I remember much, but I don't regret losing it at
no, of
that
course
age.
not.
You
And
see what I mean?
the person that you actually lost your virginity with, was it someone that you went to school with? Was it someone that you knew?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was someone I went to school with. So we was
Okay,
cool. Like we was cool. We wasn't in a relationship or anything like that. But
yeah.
it was just a mutual understanding.
Okay, and what was the kinds of it? Because obviously, what we're going to be talking about today is the pressures that young people feel. I would say, especially more so now, but the pressures that young people feel around losing their virginity, probably earlier than they wanted to, or earlier than the kinds of government guidelines or the laws say that they should be losing their virginity. So what was the reaction of like your friends, or when anyone else had kind of heard about what had happened? Because from how you're speaking, you were quite young, so I can imagine that it was a big deal, a very big deal at such a young age. I feel like it is a much bigger deal than, say, if you lost your virginity at 18, 19, or something like that.
So to give you a quick brief background, I'm the youngest out of five brothers, right?
Hmm.
So I've always was taught to not kiss and tell, which I'm still a massive, 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 massive. I agree with that statement wholeheartedly, 100%. So
Hmm.
when I did lose my virginity, it wasn't a case of me um, telling people what was happening. I told my brothers, of course, but we kind of kept that under wraps, even
Mm.
from my mum and dad and everything.
Yeah.
So if I had to advise people who are probably considering it, or from the male perspective, you can speak on the female perspective because I'm not qualified for
Yeah.
that. From the male perspective, I would say just make sure that you're when you do, it's not anything to boast about. Do you get what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's something that
Hmm.
you need to. It's something that I don't want to say be ready for because I don't actually think you're ever ready for it, to be honest.
No.
But I think it's something you need to just bear in mind, understand what you're doing, make sure you uphold the most respect for the person that you've decided to go through this experience with.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of, but yeah, kiss and telling is an important one for me. I'd say
Okay.
don't do that.
No, of course, 100%. Just to kind of give you and our viewers an insight into my initial sexual encounter. I mean, it's difficult to say. So I was 15 when I lost my virginity. And for me, I feel like I'm the prime example of a young person having sex when they're not ready and then literally dealing with the consequences afterwards. Because I ended up getting pregnant at 16, had my son when I was 17. And I would say that that was a massive, massive kind of consequence of having sex before you're ready, because you're not
What does
ready.
not ready look like
There's no perfect picture as to
for you?
what someone, for me, I would
Mm,
say a level of maturity in yourself, because you need to know the repercussions of having unprotected sex. You need to know the repercussions of kind of giving yourself to someone else in a sexual way, and potentially dealing with the negative side of things if it does go south, which it does do, unfortunately. Sometimes there are men and there are women out there that literally just want to use the opposite sex or even the same sex just for sex, literally just for
yeah,
sex. And
yeah.
some people may potentially get more invested into that relationship or that connection with that person than the other person does. And then you've got to deal with people not handling rejection well. You've got to deal with people kind of having that connection with someone and then realizing that it's not going to go any further, which can be quite traumatic, which can be therefore affect someone's self-esteem. It could affect someone's future relationships. So there's so many kinds of it's like a domino effect. There's so many different things that could come out of someone not potentially being ready for sex. So definitely a level of maturity. Second of all, knowing exactly what the other person's intentions are in before it even happens. So making sure that you've made it very clear that this is just sex, or made it very clear that we're friends but we're going to do that. Do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah, I hear
communication
you.
is key. Communication is a massive part of it. And also a massive thing is that I would say is ensuring that you're doing it for the right reasons. Because like I said in one of the statistics, nearly half of young women say that they regret losing their virginity too early. And you've got to remember, as a woman and for women, sex can be, I'm not saying that it's not for men, because it is a very intimate thing, it's a very big thing for men too, but we're women, and sorry to be graphic, but it's something actually going inside of us. It's going inside of our bodies. So I feel like you need to make sure that you're mentally prepared for the
Mm,
feelings that you're going to feel afterwards. Because there has been, like, for example, just as an example, I'm obviously not going to name any names or anything like that, but there was a girl that we knew who lost her virginity at, I think she was 13 or something like that, maybe 12 or 13 or something like that.
mm,
And she just went on to then just move mad. She was moving mad. She was just having sex with whoever she wanted to have sex with at this young age as well, having sex with whoever she wanted to. Was struggling to maintain relationships, was cheating on her boyfriends in relationships and stuff like that. And I believe that these are all consequences of her having sex at such a young age, that she struggled to actually form a proper relationship with another person, because she had just been doing it. It wasn't like a big thing for her anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because she had got it out the way so young and so early, that she just freely was doing whatever she wanted to do. It therefore meant it wasn't special for her. It wasn't.
would you? Okay, so I'm turning 30 beginning of next year, right? So my
Hmm.
my perspective is totally changed, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that I could be wrong, but I don't really think that losing your virginity is such a big deal if you're above the legal age. So
Hmm.
I think that it's not necessarily a special thing, 'cause it's more of a natural thing. Yeah, it's more organic, it's
Hmm.
natural, right? But I do think there's a level of media indoctrination that makes you
Yeah.
think that it's got to be under candlelight. You've got to have a dinner and a 5 course meal before, and all this stuff that
Hmm.
puts a lot of pressure. But when the reality is that how many people, when they have sex for the first time, stay with that person for the rest of their life? Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
for me, I don't think that that losing your virginity, or even in that story that you just told, I don't think
Hmm.
that her being sexually liberated is the byproduct of her losing her virginity at such an early age, because
Yeah.
there's having sex and then there's being ready for a relationship. It's completely two different things.
Yeah, no, of course. I completely agree with you. But what I would say with regards to the kind of uh, image that some young people might have in their heads to basically make them feel like them losing their virginity needs to be such a special thing. For some people it is. For some people it's a massive milestone in their lives. For some people it's a huge deal. I mean, for me, losing my virginity, it wasn't that much of a big deal, but it was also a situation. I was in a situation where I really, really liked the boy, really, really liked him, was like my high school crush. I was like, oh my God, this is the guy that I want to be with. So I was like, okay, I have feelings for him, whatever, so let's do it. But I was just like, when I think about it now, it wasn't that what you're saying is right. It wasn't that special to me. I was like, okay, it is what it is. It hasn't traumatized me. It hasn't made me go forward and struggle to maintain relationships and blah blah blah. So maybe it's not so much of a big deal, but I'm only one person, and there's
Mm,
other people that deal with things in a completely different way. Some people are so emotional, like they're really, really emotional people. They wear their hearts on their sleeves. They just want to care for people. They want to love people, and they want it, and they want that to be reciprocated. For someone who's like that, I can imagine that they would want to make a big deal out of the first time that they lose their virginity, the time that they lose their virginity, sorry. Or even someone who engages in any sexual relations with someone, they might want it to be special every time. So for them to feel like that, that's also okay. But it's
yeah,
also
definitely.
okay for someone to feel like, oh, okay, I would kind of just like to get it over and done with, just so I know what's happened and how it feels. But the difference between that is, if you're a grown adult and you're making those decisions, fair enough. But I feel like there's so many contributing factors as to why young people are trying to lose their virginity,
Mm,
and a lot of them could be for clout. It could be to be popular, more so on the boy side, to be popular in their friendship groups, to be popular in
definitely.
school. I don't know, for example, young girls, I know that young girls will be having sex with guys that are a lot older than them, because they might be groomed. They might be made to feel like that's what they need to be doing at that age. They may feel older in themselves, or feel more mature in themselves, that they feel like they are actually ready, but they're not. And I think, especially where we work with young people, it's not that we're going to them and saying to them that you shouldn't have sex, or that you shouldn't think about having sex. It's just about making sure that they're taking the right precautions and they're using protection, and they know
Yeah,
the
that's a big thing.
consequences of that if they don't. Like, just to give you guys an insight, anyone who kind of knows what peer-to-peer has done, we actually used to physically go into schools and deliver these, all of these subjects. We used to go in and deliver actual workshops to these young people, and I remember going in and delivering this lesson. And one of the activities that we would give to them was a sheet that they would have to fill out, and it was about the first time that they had sex. And it was like, where are you, what time of day, who is it with, what are you wearing, like all of these kind of questions. And you had the odd people that were like, oh, we're in a hotel, it's Valentine's Day, it's my birthday, we've got slow jams playing, we've got candles, and it was all really nice. And then I read some of them, and some of them were actually quite concerning. So I remember one of them was like in a forest, and it's just after school. It's just one girl that goes to school with me, and we're in a forest, and all of this. And then another one was like in the back of a car. Another one was like another one said, "Oh yeah, I'm taking her McDonald's and I'm taking her to a one hotel and I'm gonna beat," like, you know, like just a bit vulgar and a bit concerning. So
Mm.
the boys, obviously everything's anonymous, so I don't know exactly who's written it or who said it, but just walking around and reading it, obviously I can't expose them in front of the whole class because it's anonymous.
Yeah, yeah, of
People
course.
are supposed to just do what they do. I used to say, if anyone wants to read theirs out, by all means. And obviously you had the class clowns, you had the boys that were like, oh, I want to make everyone laugh, so I'm going to make my sheets like stupid. But some of them, the ones that weren't class clowns, and some of them that were literally just writing it down to do the activity, some of them were actually concerning. And not in a sense where I feel concerned that I have to go and speak to their teacher, but I would say to them, like, guys, you need to have realistic expectations of what it's gonna be like. And also on the flip side, some people in that class had already lost their virginity.
My
So for
internet's going a bit
them,
shaky.
it's not even a situation of like, oh, is it? Can you see me now?
Hold on
Is it
one
all right?
second. Yeah, it's back. It's back. It's back. Go on. Sorry.
It's back here. Can you see me properly?
Yeah, yeah. I can see you properly. Go on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Just before we continue, so we've had a couple of people comment in the comments. Anyone can ask any questions, and I'll go through them, and we'll obviously answer. If anyone's got any questions for Ashley, we can go through them as well. But we've got one comment that it says sometimes one mistake sexual intimacy as sometimes one mistakes sexual intimacy as a form of healthy intimacy, whereas it's a way that the person may process intimacy / relationships, which is very true. Then we've got, I don't think there's anything wrong with sexual freedom, but do feel like the level of maturity and or realistic expectations you have through an age and experience can help you make more informed decisions. 100%, I completely agree. I do believe that age and experience with anything, with anything that we do in life, not even necessarily age, but experience in life and life's experiences will always help us to grow as people and help us understand things differently. So as I don't know,
Definitely.
let's say like a 13 or a 14-year-old who realistically at that point in their lives only knows about school, knows about home life, knows about Instagram, knows about these little things. They don't really know too much about life and life's pressures and things that can happen in life. So I do feel like sex would be one of those kinds of big topics that needs to be communicated with young people in the correct way. It can't just be like
100%.
a conversation with your parents and it's like the birds and the bees. Do you know what I mean? And this is how it works. And so you need to sit down. I wish someone had sat down with me and said,
Do
right,
do
okay,
you think, right? Do you think it's on the parents or whoever the carers are to create a safe space? Because going back to when you was in the school and some of those kids were saying they went to a park or McDonald's or whatever the
yeah,
situation was, do you think that it's down to the parents to or the carers to have a conversation, whereas
mm,
you can create a safe space for when your child is ready in order to do it? I know that might be a bit controversial, but
yeah.
it's better than something happening in the forest. Do you get what I'm saying?
I mean, I kind of have a mixed response because I understand that in certain circumstances, such as cultural environments, there are so many different aspects of someone's home life that may prevent parents from feeling comfortable to be able to create that safe space. That's where organisations like ours come into play,
Mm.
where these young people may not have that safe place at home, and so the next best thing is at school. I do think it's also important for parents or carers or people's grown-ups, whatever we want to call them, because we don't know everyone's kind of home situations, but I think it is also important for them to be kind of updated. And I don't know, even if it was just like a conversation was had with the adult as well as the child, to provide them with a good way to be able to speak to their child.
Mm.
Because it can be very, very uncomfortable. It can be. And even so, for like, just as an example, it's uncomfortable for teachers. That's why they have us coming into school,
Yeah.
because we're trained.
Yeah.
Teachers, some teachers don't want to have that conversation. If someone has very strong religious beliefs, and part of their religious beliefs are not to talk about kind of things like this or any topics along those lines, and especially in some religions you can't have those conversations with the opposite sex unless you're married, or do you know what I mean?
No, for real. For real.
There are quite strict rules in certain cultures, so they also, it's not also a situation where teachers have to be forced to do that. It's not part of their job description to do that. It's not.
No,
So
it's true. Thinking about it now, when I was in school, sex education has no realistic, it has no benefit. Like thinking about it, I have used nothing from the sex education class. So definitely they need a revamp themselves, to be fair, in schools and what they're teaching.
yeah,
So I agree with that. I agree with that personally. But it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult one because there's so many
yeah,
aspects. Obviously, male and females, the teachings have to be different.
yeah,
Then you've got to kind of educate the parents as well,
mm,
because I'm sure if someone's daughter or son came home to them and they wasn't aware that their child was sexually active,
mm,
and they said, "Well, you know what, mum, dad, I had sex in a hotel," over saying I had sex in a car
in,
park for the
yeah,
first time, then you kind of got to be like, "All right, like I didn't want you to have sex this early, but I can appreciate you went to a hotel over a car park."
yeah,
So there's so many factors to kind of work into this topic, which is why it's probably such a difficult one to kind of teach.
yeah,
And then we leave it to TV programs and media to teach our kids for us. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a hard one, man. It's a hard one. It's a hard one.
The kind of not even necessarily the tactics, but my kind of way of speaking to these young people and trying to speak to them on a level, it's just going in and finding out as much as you can about what they think around sex, or just around any of these topics that we've covered. The main thing that you need to, and the most important thing that you need to do, is just listen to what they have to say and then respond.
So
Because
how
it's
would you approach your little one when the time is right?
so, I actually, weirdly enough, I actually asked him a question the other day, and I said to him, "Do you know what sex is?"
Mm,
And his response was, "Yeah, it's like people are kissing," and I was like, "Okay,
quite cute.
you're still very innocent," but I probably think the right time for me to start sitting down and having that conversation with him is probably once he starts secondary school, which will be a couple of years. And I think both me and his dad and my partner I think it would be good if we could all actually sit down with him and just not necessarily make it a big thing, but show the importance of it. Because in all honesty, I can't imagine what my parents felt like, but I don't want him coming home at 16 and telling me that he's got a girl pregnant. I don't. And no parent wants to hear that from their child. I mean, if it happens, it happens. I would never disown my child. That's my grandchild. Do you know what I mean? I would do exactly what my parents did with me. So that it's just something that you don't want for your child, because you want them to be able to go through life without the kind of responsibility of having a child at such a young age when they're a baby themselves. But that's why I want to show him the importance of having that conversation, but also not lecturing him in the same time. I want him to feel comfortable and to know that he can come and speak to us about something, or if he's got a question about sex, or if he's talking to a girl and they've kissed and he's getting them feelings and all of that. Do you know what I mean? I want him to be able
I
to
hear
come
you.
and speak to one of us at least.
Do
Um,
do you do you think as a mother you have a certain level of expectation though? So in terms of when you think it's ideal for him to lose it, or like, or are you kind of like a be free and when you're ready, come to me? Do you get what I mean? Or do you get what I'm trying to say?
yeah, no. I completely understand. I would say my ideal thing would probably be once he's finished school and he's out of school, he's done his studies, and if it happens, it happens after that. no one really wants to sit there and think about the time that their child's going to end up losing their virginity and is going to go on to have sex. I don't want to think about it, I'll be completely honest, because he is still so young. But ideally, that would probably be the right time for me. So he's past the kind of legal age, so he's past 16, and I would ideally like him to obviously go on to sixth form or go on to college. And then once that happens, it's like, right, okay, you are that little bit older, you're a bit more mature. I would feel like, okay, this is your time. This
So
is the time that
you're
it's going.
saying that college age is your kind
That's
of ideal.
yeah,
Okay, no, it's
yeah.
interesting.
What about you?
I think for me, I'm not. So my son's come home and said he's got girlfriend and all this jazz, yeah, already. Like he's
Yeah.
saying all this, and my response is, obviously I laughed, of course, and I said, just make sure you treat any woman with respect. That's it, point blank. Like, my thing
Yeah.
is just 100% respect. Yes, we have to have a conversation about sex and protection and all that stuff, but I'm not really, again, above the legal age, I'm not really bothered as to when he decides to make that step. Simply because if I take myself into consideration, and some people that I know that held their virginity way up into their 20s, right?
Yeah.
It's like the way you think when you're 16, 15, 17, and then the experience that you have to go through different sexual partners to get to wherever you are in a happy space of having good sex, right? It's me personally, I don't see longing out that period beneficial, as opposed to some of my friends that have kept their virginity, both male and female, that have kept their virginity well into their 20s, and now they're kind of playing catch up because they don't really know what to do. Because if you think about sex is basically such a selfless act. Yeah. So to have good, passionate sex, it's about making the other person feel comfortable and good. Yeah.
Yeah.
When really at the beginning stages when you're having sex, it's all real about yourself, isn't it? It's just about
Cool.
yourself. Do you get what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
about yourself. So the truth is, it's never gonna be to the heights that TV may make it seem,
Yeah.
because you're doing such a selfish act. And
Mm.
I read somewhere that you can correct me if I'm wrong, of course. I've read somewhere that more than half of women don't even have orgasms from penetrative sex.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And there's such a taboo about masturbation as well, that
Mm.
they don't even know their own bodies.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
so when you factor all this into the sexual experience, holding on to something like virginity, and if anyone wants to, that's totally fine. I'm not looking down on
Yeah.
that at all. But holding on to it for the right moment, I think you're kind of doing yourself an injustice, in my personal opinion.
Mm.
And that goes for both males and females. I think you're doing an
Yeah.
injustice. Now, that's not me saying, the first person to show you interest, just bust it out. I'm not saying that at all. I'm
Yeah.
saying, when I mean make sure it's with the right person or the right time, it's with someone that you respect, that respects you, and there is a mutual understanding of what's going on, whether that be outside of a relationship or within a relationship. Just make sure that respect will be maintained.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
No, 100%.
But with anything, I think experience is the key. Experience and education is the key. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's really where I'm
I mean,
at with that.
just kind of going back to what you said about like half of women are unable to actually climax through penetrative sex, and that in itself, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. So you basically saying that some people holding on to their virginity until their late 20s or whatever is an injustice to themselves, which I do actually agree with to an extent, because for my personal experience, it has taken me all these years of having sex to be able to understand exactly
Mm,
what sex is,
mm,
and to understand the level of intimacy it gives you in a relationship. It can actually be a stress relief as well.
yeah, yeah,
It can make you, it obviously releases endorphins, so it makes you feel
yeah.
better. It physically makes you feel better. It makes you actually think, um it makes you think better, and all of that kind of stuff. But what on the kind of flip side, what I found sometimes in a relationship is that it can be quite frustrating if that doesn't happen. So if you don't climax from penetrative sex, you're like, you do sometimes sit there and you're like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, what's going on? Why can't this happen? Why is this not happening? And so I think it is important for everyone, both males and females, to
Definitely.
experience and also to an extent experiment a little bit to find out exactly what you like, imagine like exactly what you're into. Everyone's into different things, but when it comes to young people, I feel like their level of maturity is not there yet for them to actually understand why they're having sex. Do you know what I mean? Especially when it's of a really young age. When you kind of get into your later teens, then maybe I could be a bit like, okay, yeah, everyone gets a bit curious. You know what I mean? You want to experiment, you want to kind of find out what's going on. But when you're, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, even 14 and 15, I would say that's probably a vital point. And that's why the law
Mm.
is the law and the age of consent is 16. Because
No, great.
I also feel like prior to that, your mental maturity is not there yet to actually comprehend what you're doing and to understand what you're doing. But that's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. I definitely think that, like I said, there's different people. So if you're somebody that feels particularly pressured to have sex, you should
yeah,
never be in that situation. That should be a big red X, no go. I'm not doing it if you feel pressured. So I
yeah,
agree with what you're saying before your age of consent. I agree with what you're
mm,
saying. But if you're a curious person,
mm,
like curiosity kills the cat. Do you get what I mean? And
yeah, yeah,
the 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 longer you are holding back from something that you really want to do, the more
mm,
you're kind of putting self pressure on yourself. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
So
just to kind of continue on from what you said, the curiosity sometimes it is going off onto a different subject a little bit, but the curiosity
mm,
sometimes can actually be worse than them going ahead with actually having sex. And my point is their curiosity sometimes leads them to porn. Now, with porn, this is something because we delivered a whole lesson on porn as well. We'd go into schools and we'd sit down and speak to them about porn and sometimes the kind of extreme consequences of people watching porn. So obviously the extreme end of it is people being fully addicted to
yeah,
watching
yeah,
porn,
yeah,
and it affects them being able to physically perform with another human being.
yeah. Mm.
So what I'm trying to get at is that young people can sometimes go down that curious road and it could be a bit more of a detriment to them because they have a false idea of what sex is going to be like. So in that situation, sorry, this may also be a controversial comment, but I would prefer my child to go out and experience it for what it actually is rather than sit there and watch porn and think that's what it's going to be like in his life when it really
Mm.
happens. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
that's interesting. Again, I think I don't know. Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. Again, I think that I watched a documentary. I think it was a BBC documentary, and this guy was active on the porn. Yeah, like
He was
active, and he
addicted to
put it.
porn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was mad.
This is
Like
the video that we would show to the kids.
every 5 minutes and that. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what was going on in his head. Yeah, didn't have time to work or eat. But the thing is, with everything, there is moderation, right? And you can learn a lot from porn. Like there is some wild porn, but generally you can learn a bit and bob. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think if we're in a world that's undereducated in so many aspects, especially
Mm,
sex, yeah, going out there and experimenting is never going to give you what you're looking for because you're just probably likely to experiment with someone that's equally uneducated with you.
mm-hmm.
If you're doing it at the right age, so say everyone's 16, two 16-year-olds are never going to really learn much, are they? Because
Yeah.
they're both inexperienced as to what it is that they should be doing
Mm-hmm.
or how they should be doing it. So I do think that porn is a good tool to use, but not abuse. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
And it also depends on like you said, there is porn out there that is just, it's harmless. It's literally just two people having sex. You can literally go and search for like very soft. It's not
Yeah.
hardcore or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not got all different things going on. But when it becomes concerning is when a young person would rather be in their room watching porn than, I don't know, actually trying to chat to gal or chat to man
But
outside or
the
away
thing is, it's a different
from
era,
their
isn't
room.
it? It's a different era. It's a different era. No, like everything's behind the screen now.
Yeah, but that's concerning. I would look at that and think that that's a concern. I would
No, it
genuinely look at
is,
that and think
but that's
if
not porn's fault.
it's not porn's fault. Of course, it's not porn's fault. I'm not blaming it. There's so many different contributing
Kind of.
factors as to why a young person would want to stay behind a screen in their bedroom than be out like we were when we was younger. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But that then becomes a dangerous thing. It then becomes an issue because it then is still creating this kind of scenario and this image in a young person's head as to what they think it's actually going to be like. And the more they're exploring on the internet, the more stuff that they're going to find. And
Yeah, true.
some of that will be not suitable for them. It will be stuff that even grown people shouldn't be watching. Everyone knows about the dark internet and the black internet and all of these kind of messed up things that we see, all videos being passed around of things that I don't ever want to see again in my life.
Mm.
And it's unfortunate that sometimes that can actually go on to affect people in their adult age, in their
So
adult
then,
life.
would you say that? So then, who's responsible for teaching kids, educating kids? Because it all comes down to education
Yeah, of
based on
course.
porn.
Yeah, of course.
Who's the first point of contact before the child gets to porn, or you think the child might be looking at porn? Who
Again,
then has to take those reins?
realistically or ideally, I would want to say the parents, but we know that that's not always going to happen. We know that's not always the case. So I think
How
it
do you
is
have that conversation? How
about
do
what
you have?
about porn?
Yeah, how do you have it? How do you open up to
You
speak
know what?
about porn?
Let me just give you an example, right? So I do nails as well, right? On the, like, I do Pittsburgh and I do nails as well. And I had a client yesterday and I was talking to her about her son, and she's got a 12-year-old son, and we was just in conversation, etc. And she said, oh yeah, like one of his friends sent him a video of porn the other day. And she said that she basically heard it coming from his room. So she confronted him about it and said, like, what are you watching? Like, what is that? And then he was honest with her. He said, oh, mum, like one of the boys at school sent me this video. So she sat down and spoke to him about it in that kind of situation. If that doesn't happen, or it's not under those circumstances, I think it's very, very important to sit down and speak to our kids about porn, as important as it is to talk to them about sex, because they're still related, because it's still sex. But it's just important. I think it's so important, and this is what I say in all of the lives. It's so important to just communicate with your kids. Just speak to your kids. Make your kids feel like they can come and talk to you about anything that they
Yeah.
can. And I know in a lot of circumstances that can't happen. So there's no pressure on people to do that. But just to help our young people and make them understand life and things that happen in life in the correct way, and in a way that's not going to affect them in a negative way once they get to their adult years. It's just important for us to communicate with them and make sure that we're guiding them in the right way. Do you know what I mean?
No,
And
definitely.
like with you, for example, and obviously in my situation it's two completely different things, because you're a father and I'm a mother, and there's probably two completely different ways that we do it. But the thing we have in kind of that's similar is we both have a son.
Mm.
So my way of dealing with him would probably be the approach of asking him questions, finding out exactly what he knows, and just talking to him about it on a level. But on the flip side, I would also probably feel a little bit more comfortable if my partner or his dad spoke to him about it as well, because they can speak to him from a man's perspective. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? So giving that child two
Relatable.
different, yeah, exactly, a bit more relatable. But I mean, I can't say the perfect way or talk about the perfect way to do it, because you don't know what situation you're going to find yourself in with your child. It may be like my client the other day, it may be that you find porn on their phone or you hear them watching porn or something like that, and you confront them about it that way. And we both know the kind of videos that would be sent round in school
Yeah, they're
on
mad.
our old BBMs and all of this kind of stuff. The videos
Yeah,
that
they're
were
mad.
sent round on MSN, Facebook, whatever, it's just all mad. Like, some of the videos are mad. Some of the videos are two people from school who have actually had sex and one of the other people have recorded. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can't protect them from it 24/7. But it's
Yeah,
just
because
making sure that we speak to them about it.
law of averages is something statistically is going to go wrong, isn't it? That's the way.
Yeah.
That's experience. That's the way it's going to go. But we can try to. Do you think as parents we're too late to the party?
What do you mean by too late to the party? About having
Do
the
you
chat
think
with...
that when we're talking about sex or the opposite gender, that the child has already started to explore and then we've jumped in, so it's very hard to catch them on the wave? So do you think that we have to initiate the conversation, or do you think that you kind of let them go into it and then we kind of, you know?
I don't know. I'd say either or, to be completely honest with you. I think if you feel comfortable just approaching your child straight away and saying, right, this is how it goes. This is what you're probably going to see. This is probably what you're going to witness at some point in your life, etc. Or like, there's nothing wrong with kind of your child dipping their toes in a little bit, and then rather than them submerging their whole body or diving all the way in, you kind of catch them and say, right, okay, let's just come off the edge a little bit and we'll talk about
No, I
this
hear that.
first before you try and dive in. Do you know what I mean? There's
Well,
I don't think either of them ways are wrong. I don't think either of them are. I think
no,
they're
it's
cool.
true. There is no right or wrong. I'm putting myself in a
Yeah.
position where I'm trying to figure out what would be the best scenario for me, outcome for me personally. Because I know
Yeah.
my son's getting to where these things are going to
To be completely
crop up, innit? And they've all got
to be
smartphones now
completely
as well.
honest, the way that you're telling me your son's coming home with girlfriends and all of these things, I think it's definitely going to be a situation of him dipping his toes in first, and you're going to have to be like, son, let's
I
have
know.
a
It's
chat.
all techie. It's all techie. It's proper techie, man. But I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I really don't. I really don't know because we're still watching and stuff. So it's like I can't quite gauge where he is. Do you get what I'm saying? I can't quite gauge it properly because,
Can
you
I
know,
just ask you a question? I know this is
sure.
it's just a random, it's not a random question, it's related, but how does your son, and then obviously I'll respond with how my son reacts, but how does your son react to, I don't know, certain scenes in movies and stuff like that, where it might be people kissing or stuff? Obviously we're not watching films that are completely inappropriate for our kids, but there are still kids movies where they're kissing and stuff like that. How does he react to that?
Um, good question. How does he react? He doesn't really think. Like I tried to look, one of them like kind of side eye looks to see, kind of gauge where he's at. I kind of
Yeah.
side eye him, but he doesn't really react, and I think he doesn't react because he knows that I'm side eyeing him. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But I can tell when there would be like a girl on TV that
Mm,
he might find attractive. I could tell because he
mhm.
starts to kind of clam up and start to readjust. So I can get like I can gauge a little. There's a, I can't remember what the program is, but there's a program on Netflix, like a family program, and the
Yeah.
kids are in school and there's a girl on there. So I can kind of see what his type is going to be already.
Mm.
Um, so he kind of clams up, so I can see. But in terms of the kind of hugging and kissing aspect, he's he's got like a good poker face on him. Do you get what I mean? He's got like a strong poker
Yeah,
face on
yeah,
him. What about
yeah.
you?
Because with my son, he does get a little bit like, if he catches me looking at him, he'll get a bit shy and smile and be like, "Whoa, whoa," that kind of thing. But then, the same as you, there are other times I can see him like staring at the TV like that if a girl comes on
Mm,
the screen or something like that, and I'm like, that's normal. That is
mm,
completely normal. Like, they are going to start to kind of feel things and feel different feelings and blah blah blah. Um, But I was just curious because I'm thinking back to when I was, say, Kai's age or even a little bit older. If I was in the same room with my dad and there was two people kissing on the screen, I felt like my insides were about to peel out of my skin. I felt
100%.
so awkward. And I was like, I'd literally look away from the screen. I was like, I can't look, because the thought of my dad thinking that I've got any of those kind of thoughts or feelings of anything
No,
like that used
100.
to petrify.
100.
But
I
then,
do think it's a different generation though, isn't it? So the relationship that we've
yeah,
got with our children in comparison to the relationship that the older generation had with us is completely
yeah,
different. We're more like,
yeah,
I'm assuming anyway, we're more like brethren, kind of. Like we're parents,
yeah,
but we're brethren. Do you get what I mean? Whereas
we're
with my
cool.
parents, I didn't even really have the sex talk with my mum and dad. Do you get me?
Yeah,
So
I
it's a
didn't
whole
either. To
different.
be fair, I actually had conversations with my mum, but that's because she was obviously doing a lot of youth work. She was working with young people and having those kind of conversations. So she did bring that home to an extent, but I don't feel like I ever actually sat down and had a proper conversation about it. And with my dad, never.
Do,
Never.
do you
Even
think,
now, I
right?
would never sit down and have a
Do you think that
conversation with
if
him
you
about
did,
sex.
we both had kids quite young, right? So
Yeah.
I was 18 and you was 16, right?
Him.
You 17.
Yeah.
Right. So do you think that if you had the sex talk, that you still would have had a child at a young age?
That's such a difficult question. It's so hard to say. I would like to say no, because I want to believe that a parent's influence on their child is so great that if my parents had sat down and said, right, okay, this is the situation about sex, if you do fall pregnant, or if this does happen, or if that happens, this is how you deal with it, like think about this, think about that, and just had a thorough chat with it, maybe I would have thought differently. But the way that things were, and I think back to my kind of mindset around when I got pregnant, I was so besotted with my son's dad. I was so in love with him. I genuinely believed that I was going to be with him for the rest of my life. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just having a baby with the guy that I'm going to be with forever anyway. So, like, what difference does it make? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, things did not turn out that way. But it's
Do you think
just,
that you was again, correct me if I'm wrong, right?
yeah.
But do you think that you was like a maybe not a hopeless romantic, but do you think you was kind of rushing through life? So the person that you was with, your child's dad, do you think that
Yeah.
because of the situation you was like,
Sorry, guys, Ash is frozen.
you still
You
there?
back, Ash?
Yeah, I'm back in. I'm back in. I don't know what's
Sorry,
going on
you
with the phone.
froze. So, I definitely believe that I was rushing through life. I had this image of my head of like being with this guy that I was so in love with, us having a child together, then us moving out and having our first flat and just living this adult life, not
Mm.
understanding that adult life is not fun. It's not like in the movies, it's not like on the adverts, it's not what I thought it was going to be in my head, which is a shame. I mean, I believe as I've got older, that picture has come back, and I do believe that me with my partner now, we live in our flat, we've got both of our kids, and we do have a family unit. So I do feel like finally I have got what I was looking for from when I was like 14, when I was with my son's dad. So I do feel like that kind of part of my life has finally been fulfilled, but I shouldn't have been having those kind of feelings and wanting to have that kind of life at the age of 16.
Okay, so
Like,
then,
I just
what I'm
finished
getting from
school.
this then, what I'm getting from this then is that the teachings are all wrong. What we should be teaching is that life isn't a race because really you get taught go to school, go to
Yeah,
college, go to uni, get a job, yeah? Good grades, good job. And you're meant to do all of this before you're like 25,
yeah,
yeah? And get a banging job on a 100K salary by the
yeah,
time you're 28. That's what the teaching is, yeah? But
yeah,
really, if you're teaching to kind of slow down, take your time, do you think that would have an indirect
yeah.
impact on people having kids at such a young age? Because then everyone realizes
One
that actually I
hundred
don't need to
percent.
do this. Mm, mm. It's interesting, isn't it?
100%. I genuinely believe that if there wasn't so much pressure on young people from such a young age to basically pass all of those milestones or get to all of those milestones in their life by a certain time, people would, I don't know, take a couple of years out before they went to uni to travel or to go and explore something or go and explore
Hmm.
life and do different things and maybe work different jobs. It's fine to jump from job to job if you want, just to try out and see what you want to do in your life. Like, there's no what I struggle with the idea of going to school, going to college or sixth form, going to university, and you have to stick with that one thing that you supposedly want to do for the rest of your life by getting a
Mm.
degree in that subject. That's nonsense. It's crazy to me. Like, I've explored different jobs. I mean, nothing extravagant, but I've explored beauty, I've explored just like admin jobs, I've explored recruitment, and now I'm back doing beauty again. Like,
Mm.
you may take that little U-turn and start something, they think maybe that's not what I really want to do, and come back to it later on in life. Who says that you have to accomplish so many things by the time most people on average live till they're like 70 or 80 years of age,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you're talking about setting your life in stone from the age of 20?
Yeah,
That's
in the
a
space of
whole
13 years,
that's
getting
a
married
whole
and all of that.
50 or 60 years. Well, you think before you retire. So when you retire, you're what, 65, and for men it's 70. I think it's increased to. But even still, from 20 to 65, that's 45 years. For men,
Well,
that's
yeah.
55 years.
Yeah, I feel like my life is just starting, and trust me, I've had a good 29 years. Yeah, I've had a
Yeah,
solid 29 years, but I feel like I'm literally starting fresh from March. I feel like, yeah, I'm actually coming into my own. So, you know,
yeah. Um,
it's been a journey.
we're gonna get cut off now because there's 1 minute until this live is over. But
No worries.
thank you so much for joining us, Ash. It was lovely having you on. It's been a great chat.
Thanks for
Very
having me, man.
constructive. So it's amazing. While you're on here, Ash, we do, I know I say at the end of every live, but just to remind everyone that we do actually offer free workbooks on the different subjects that we've been discussing on the lives. So if anyone wants them, just send us over an email. We can get them emailed over to you. And I think next week, guys, we're going to be covering STIs, but I'll have to confirm with you in the week, just so we know exactly who we're going to be having on next time. But again, thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. We really, really appreciate it, and we hope you all have a lovely evening. Ash, I'll
Thanks,
catch you soon.
thanks, then. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.